views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Sewage treatment plants, major trucking routes, food distribution centers, and highways like the Cross Bronx Expressway are all clustered together in the South Bronx. They've created an area with such poor air quality it's been named Asthma Alley. Bronx elected officials and activists say that air quality in this district is one of the most pressing issues of the upcoming election. The South Bronx neighborhoods of Mott Haven and Melrose have some of the highest asthma rates in the country. They send kids sick with asthma to the hospital 3 times more often than in the rest of New York City. Welcome to Bronx Connections Election 2020 Local Lens. I'm Eliot Schiaparelli, reporter and anchor at WFUV. That's the NPR affiliate station based on the Rose Hill campus of Fordham University in the Bronx. This is the first in a 5-part series covering issues in the 2020 presidential election that will affect the Bronx. It's a joint initiative between WFUV, BronxNet Television, and Norwood News. As Election Day 2020 approaches, the candidates are solidifying their positions on climate change. On one side, the GOP believes that environmental regulations need to be lifted to stimulate economic growth. On the left, the environment is one of the most pressing issues of the election, and the effects of climate change can be seen from coast to coast. Wildfires on one side, hurricanes on the other. Recently, the Democratic nominee for President, Joe Biden, gave a speech on climate change where he appealed to low-income communities like the Bronx, pointing out that in many cases, they're the most affected.
The unrelenting impact of climate change affects every single solitary one of us. But too often, the brunt falls disproportionately on communities of color, exacerbating the need for environmental justice.
By contrast, the GOP party platform on the issue reads, "Climate change is far from this nation's most pressing national security issue. This is the triumph of extremism over common sense, and Congress must stop it." And on a recent visit to California, President Donald Trump said this.
Okay, it'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
In response to the assertion that the California wildfires were caused by a rapidly warming climate. Ahead of Election Day 2020, Bronx activists and environmentalists are stressing the effect climate policy created by the winner of the election could have on their borough. In this episode, we'll hear from members of the Bronx Sunrise Movement. Sunrise is a national grassroots youth movement whose aim is to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process. The members of the Bronx chapter started their hub just 3 months ago. For them, the disproportionate effect climate change has on the Bronx is no accident. It's environmental racism.
It sounds to me, it's like, oh, this theoretical term, but it's like you can see it and you can feel it, and you know, kids in the Bronx have like the highest rates of asthma, I think in the country. So it's, these people who, are not doing anything wrong, being, tasked with the burden of dealing with, asthma and, asthma and like respiratory diseases.
That's Anita Gita. She founded the Bronx chapter of Sunrise along with Michael Villanova and Fiona Crisp. They're all students in the Bronx. Gita and Crisp are seniors at Fordham University and Hunter College, respectively, and Villanova is a graduate student at CUNY. Here's my interview with the founding members of Bronx Sunrise. Thank you guys for talking to me today for Bronx Connections. I'm here with Michael Villanova, Anita Gita, and Fiona Crisp. They're from the Sunrise Bronx Movement Hub. So starting off, I'm hoping you guys can tell me, what is the Sunrise Movement?
So the Sunrise Movement is a youth-led environmental group that works both at a policy and electoral level to enact better policies that will fight climate change. We are a relatively new hub. We just started under 3 months ago under a coordination between myself, Anita, and Fiona. just trying to find a way that we can coordinate our efforts to fight environmental pollution and problems in our backyard.
And you guys, it's all grassroots and student run, so tell me about yourselves and why you're interested in environmental policy and your environmental impact. Anita, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Anita Gita. I'm a senior at Fordham studying environmental studies. And, you know, as a resident like of the Bronx for these past 4 years, it's kind of been a shame to like notice how much like trash is, you know, like in this, like on Fordham Road or like near where I live. And also just like the pollution is like wild. Like I'm a Ram van driver at Fordham, and like, you know, driving up from Fordham and then all the way to like Manhattan, I'm like, wow, like I can actually breathe while in Manhattan. Like, why is that a thing? Like, that's awful. So, you know, being an environmental studies major and also just like actually paying attention to what's going on has kind of made me really excited to join Sunrise and hopefully try and, you know, help with like environmental degradation and limit the pollution that's just outrageous.
Hi, I'm Fiona. I'm a senior at Hunter College and double majoring in environmental studies and urban studies. So I got interested in the environment a couple summers ago. I had an internship at the Westchester County Department of Labs and Research in an environmental bacteriology lab. So we were doing water quality monitoring there. So I was testing like the beaches and the pools within the county, and I was testing Hudson River water, like near the sewage treatment plants, to make sure that they were living up to the state standards for water quality. And I just realized how polluted our waters were. And then later that year, I did a research project on Fresh Kills landfill in Staten Island, it closed in 2001. And at that point, it was the largest landfill in the world. So it's insane. And then I had an internship at the Manhattan Borough President's Office, and I did some research on cruise ships and their contribution to air pollution. So I just thought the Sunrise Movement was a great way to address all of these issues.
Yeah, Michael Villanova. I'm a CUNY student studying political theory. My background is mostly in like academic work, but I've also done some organizing and some volunteer work on campaigns, more specifically with like Community Voices Heard, which is a housing rights group in the Lower Hudson Valley and New York City. So the way I came to environmental work was just sort of seeing the intersection between like economics and working class justice, and then also how the environment plays a huge role in the quality of life that working class and low-income people have in New York City.
So why specifically does the Bronx need a Sunrise Movement hub? What can you guys do here specifically?
Well, environmental racism is really prevalent right now because of COVID, which is, you know, a respiratory illness that disproportionately affects people with pre-existing respiratory illnesses like asthma, which is like really prevalent in the Bronx. So the Bronx is home to the Hunts Point Food Distribution Center, and it has numerous waste transfer stations and like warehouses and things like that. So there's lots of industrial traffic in the Bronx, like degrading the air quality. The Bronx is also home to like highways like the Cross Bronx Expressway, which like divide our neighborhoods and again degrade our air quality. And yeah, so it's just really important for those reasons.
Can you guys define and explain better the term environmental racism? Michael used it last time we talked, and I really want to define and explain it well for our listeners.
Environmental racism is like how Black and brown communities are kind of like faced with the burden of like pollution, you know, waste. You know, it's like, it sounds like to me it's like, oh, this theoretical term, but it's like you can see it and you can feel it. And you know kids in the Bronx have like the highest rates of asthma, you know, I think in the country. So it's, you know, these people who, you know, are not doing anything wrong being, you know, tasked with the burden of dealing with, you know, asthma and, you know, and asthma and like respiratory diseases. So yeah, maybe someone else can better articulate it, but for me it's like something you can really, you know, see and feel, and it's yeah,
just poor and minority people just disproportionately bear the burden of climate change and air pollution and water pollution, all those awful things.
We're also going to see this like long term in the Bronx, because like one of the reasons, I mean, the larger electoral and organizational goal of Sunrise Movement is to stop climate change. And we know that with rising sea levels in and around New York City, that it's going to be the South Bronx within about, if sea levels rise about 6 feet, the South Bronx and areas around like City Island like that, which tend to be lower income people and also tend to be Black and Latinx people, they're the ones that are going to have to move. They're the ones that are going to have to be impacted by this. So and anything environmental when it comes to terms of like intersectionality, when you view it through a gender, race, or economic lens, it just sort of solidifies, it puts in material terms, like Anita said, like it's not abstract. Like there's material things that are happening to these communities and that have to disproportionately take on the burden of them.
And you guys only started at the end of June as a hub, is that correct? How have you grown since then?
Well, it started off as just the three of us, and now we have a leadership of about 9 or 10 people and a member list of like 20, maybe 30 people.
And going forward, how do you want to keep expanding that?
As I'm the head of like recruitment, and I really want to try and reach out to like college students in the Bronx. You know, there's Lehman College, I think there's Bronx Community College. I'd love to see, you know, more just college students and high school students really engaged with this, because I know that, you know, these people care about this. You know, environmental sustainability is a topic that's like really like on like a trend word, and I think a lot of people are like, oh, like this is something that we should definitely, you know, be talking about more often. So I think we just need to try and find these people who are interested, and yeah, definitely young people are definitely the way forward.
Are there things that as people that live in the Bronx or go to school in the Bronx, and like we're guests here, are there things we can be doing to reduce the impact we have on the climate, or is it something that needs to happen on a corporate level?
I think like the direction of our hub, and one of the things that we agreed on like when we started the hub and now our direction is that, you know, reducing personal footprint, sure, if anyone has the means to do so. We know sometimes that money can be a prohibitor of doing that. And we know that like one of the common themes that is so prevalent in our society is that like every individual needs to take on the burden of environmental and climate action. But we think that it has to happen at this broader level. So like the issues of rising sea levels and air pollution can't just be stopped by one person switching over to an electric car or something. We need broader policy action, broader political action, which is why I think as scary as sometimes it is to join in like an organization that's political and put yourself out there, we really need young people to do it right now. We really need you to join an organization like Sunrise, where it's collective action, where it's solidarity, where we work together towards electing politicians that are actually going to be in seats of power and represent our interests and our future's interests. So it's the hard work of solidarity and communal organizing. That's what I think has to be the strategy for environmental action.
Right. So with that, if somebody wanted to join your hub or take action with you, how could they contact you or become a member?
So the best way is to reach us on Instagram or Twitter at Bronx Sunrise, at Bronx Sunrise. In our bio, you can find a link to sign up and become a member, and we'll add you to our email list and clue you into any of our future actions, which due to COVID will mostly be through Zoom actions and online actions, but they're still very important. They're getting results. And also there's a link in our bio to, if you are a Bronx resident, to join the Bronx Swab and just help out around that civilian initiative to review our waste management and pollution problems. So that'd be a great way to get involved with us.
And finally, I just want to ask if there is anything else you want to share with me about climate change, specifically to the Bronx or about Sunrise.
For me, I think like the time is now, you know, we can't keep waiting because this is only going to get worse. So if you have the means and you have the time, like definitely join into collective action. This is the first summer that I've done like organizing, and it's scary, and we've made mistakes, but like that's okay as long as you're making an effort, like it's fine. So yeah, definitely don't be afraid to go out with your friends and do like a park cleanup, or don't be afraid to join Bronx Sunrise or start a hub at your school or something. So yeah.
That was Michael Villanova, Fiona Crisp, and Anita Gita from Bronx Sunrise. They're not the only group pushing for climate justice in the Bronx. Elizabeth Quaranta is the executive director of Friends of Mosholu Parkland. Her group focuses on maintaining green space along the Mosholu Parkway, and more recently on educating residents about sustainability. Quaranta says when she initiates a conversation about climate change, she starts first with the park space in the Bronx and how it's maintained. Then she moves on to tangible events like Storm Isaias, which ripped through this area in early August. Her group was actively involved in the storm cleanup. During her regular park outings, Quaranta also notices the amount of non-biodegradable waste there is scattered around. Everything from plastic cups and plastic bags to straws and styrofoam containers. If she wasn't there to pick those things up, Quaranta says they could end up in drains and be carried straight out to the ocean.
Plastic bags are made out of petroleum, and I don't care what website says, this is how trash bags are made, and it's eco-friendly. There's nothing eco-friendly about making petroleum bags.
That's Quaranta. She's frustrated because she has to use unsustainable plastic bags on her cleanups because the Department of Sanitation will only pick up trash that's packed in them. In my conversation with Quaranta, she went deeper into this issue and many others. I want to start by asking what the mission of Friends of Mosholu Parkland is.
We started out with keeping the parkland green and clean, but as climate change is literally in our faces, that mission just continues to evolve. So we are not at a point right now where we want to create a new mission. We want that to, we want what we're going through to tell us what our future mission is going to be. And the reason for that is because we came from a green, clean background to now providing public education for better sustainability practices, also community development, so that, we teach how to love your community, and we instill civic pride and duty. So from the 5 years ago, it's definitely changing, and so we are looking forward to that, so that when we do sit down and say, hey, where are we going to go forward, it'll give us something to think about based on what's happening now, especially with our environment, and then how we can participate.
And do you have any specific events coming up?
Right now, we're under the CDC guidelines of not having large gatherings. So the information that we do provide is pretty much on a weekend or weekday ad lib way when we are outside. When we are visibly outside on Mosholu Parkland, that's when we wear our hats that say Friends of Mosholu. We wear our T-shirts so that people know when we're out there. We do a lot of solo volunteer. We encourage solo volunteering, and so what we wear actually opens up that conversation. Many times I've been out there, some of the other FOMP members have been out there, and people have come up, keeping socially distant, but they have come up and they've asked questions. And then that provides us the opportunity to talk about everyday, just like everyday life. And so when we begin having that everyday conversation, that's it's so easy because every day we should be incorporating some kind of sustainability practice.
When you talk to people, how do you say how climate change is and will affect the Bronx specifically? How do you bring it home?
We start with the amount of green space that we have. So we do have a lot of green space in this area of Bedford Park. Even though Mosholu Parkway is 3 miles, you know, we do take care of the parkland from the 4 train Mosholu Parkway station all the way down to Webster Avenue on both north and south side. That's how we start that conversation.
And then where do you go?
When they tell us, well, why do you do what, you know, what we do, then we talk to them about how our temperatures are rising, how the weather has affected our own immediate environment. They get reminded of the storms that we go through. We just finished coming through storm ISIS. Was it ISIS? I think
it's Isaias.
Okay, so so you know how many trees we lost? Oh my God, we lost quite a bit of trees. And so again, if those winds wouldn't have been so severe, they might have lasted, you know, they could have withstand those winds. When it rains, it really pours. If it's rain, it's too much rain. If there's heat, there's just too much heat.
So what kind of funding does the Bronx need on, you know, the city, state, and federal level to maintain this green space?
I can't be specific on the state and fed, you know, that I can't be specific on, but what I do know is that funding, I think, needs to be moving forward, needs to be geared into public education, and both on the children, both on youth and also on the adult side. We can't keep allocating funding for picking up trash. I know we have a big trash initiative in the Bronx. It's called Meaningful Mondays, and the elected, you know, officials come out with their groups and they go into park areas. But that's just like putting a Band-Aid on the situation. The funding needs to go into not just public education, but more important, into manufacturing initiatives for alternative products. So the problem is not the litter. The problem is what litter is made from. So, you know, if we had products that would biodegrade and disintegrate within a matter of days or weeks, you know, even months, then it wouldn't have been so bad. But the amount of, when we go through our trashes, what we see are these manufactured everyday styrophones, which by now really are illegal, but people are still using them because they buy them and use them as plates instead. So even though the businesses are not using them, the styrofoam you know, plates are still on sale. You go to the store and you can buy them. You can buy styrofoam cups. They shouldn't even be on the market. And I mean, even the Department of Sanitation, you know, as much as we try to collaborate with our agencies, why are we still using plastic bags? So, you know, bring funding into the manufacturing and give them incentives for them to create alternative products. One of the issues that we had was that, you know, over at the Keeper's House, we're trying to bring in products that we use for cleaning that are sustainable, right? So we've been changing the toilet paper, and we've been changing, you know, hand things, you know, hand paper, hand towels. I wanted to change the plastic bags. Plastic bags are made out of petroleum, and I don't care what website says, oh, you know, this is how trash bags are made, and it's eco-friendly. There's nothing eco-friendly about making petroleum bags. So I inquired and I was told that Department of Sanitation does not pick up unless it's in a black bag. And then I was told, because they have contracts, I guess, with people, with manufacturers and companies that sell black bags. There's a lot of money involved there. So now, you know, I can see where it's going to be a fight between the companies, the manufacturing companies that are still making these black bags because of the money that's involved. So there has to be another way to encourage those manufacturers to stop making non-environmental items.
So you're talking about, you know, policy here.
Yeah.
Are there specific climate policies that you look for in a candidate's platform when you go to the polls?
I would like to hear, I would like to know about what the candidate is thinking of doing for the community in terms of bettering the environment, and not just physically. Like, what is their plan with bringing the importance of climate change into the community? What funding can they provide under that umbrella so that small nonprofit groups like ourselves and even medium size can work with that funding, and then for us to scale better the small communities that we have, and then teach them or provide them the information that they need in order, you know, for them to lead a more sustainable lifestyle. And it's not just individually, but it's also on a communal level.
That was Elizabeth Quaranta from Friends of Mosholu Parkland. To these activists, climate change is one of the most pressing issues of the upcoming election. But how does the average voter feel? According to a Pew Research poll, 42% of registered voters said climate change was a very important issue to them when it comes to voting. But there were substantial differences between Trump and Biden supporters on the importance of most issues, and the widest gaps were on climate change by 57 percentage points. Organizations like Friends of Mosholu, Parkland, and Sunrise will undoubtedly continue to lobby for more environmental protection no matter who wins the presidency November 3rd. Join us next week where WFUV reporter Nora Thomas will discuss policing and criminal justice. Special thanks to Friends of Mosholu, Parkland, and Sunrise for joining us. Thanks also to Sheila Maloney from Norwood News, Luis Roboletto, and Michael Max, and everyone else at BronxNet, and to George Bodarky and Robin Shannon at WFUV. To read, watch, and listen to more from Bronx Connections, you can go to norwoodnews.org, WFUV.org, or BronxNet.org. I'm Eliot Schiaparelli. Thanks for watching.